My friend, something big is about to happen in Las Vegas. Decisions are difficult to make, and it seems like one of them is knocking on the Raiders' door. The locker room is on alert, the back room is buzzing, and a big name could be packing their bags. What was once seen as a key player has now become a valuable bargaining chip, and conversations in NFL corridors are more intense than ever. And the most impressive thing is that this potential move could yield draft capital and open up space for the blindsides many believe will be decisive. But there's one detail no one expected. The player involved was, until recently, one of the most productive on the roster. And now, the time seems ripe for a different direction. Hang in there, Raiders fans, because what's coming could completely change the season's narrative and make it clear that a new era is beginning in Las Vegas. The Las Vegas Raiders are bracing for impact. After a brutal 1-4 start, new general manager John Spietek and head coach Pete Carroll appear ready to make their first bold statement, and it could come at the expense of wide receiver Jacoby Myers. The 27-year-old, entering the final year of his $33 million contract, is quickly becoming a centerpiece of trade deadline rumors. League sources say Spietek has quietly put several key players on the market as the Raiders finally accept that this roster isn't built to win. And Myers? He's their biggest bargaining chip. Carroll and Spietek took over with high hopes and an aggressive plan to compete immediately, betting that Geno Smith could be the answer for the center role. But that gamble has backfired terribly. Geno's 9 interceptions in just 5 games have crippled the offense, turning every Sunday into a fight for survival. With the season winding down, it no longer makes sense to keep a player who could hit free agency for free. According to Josh Weil of Pro Football and Sports Network, the Raiders are seriously considering a deal that would send Myers to the Pittsburgh Steelers in exchange for a 4th-round pick. Pittsburgh makes perfect sense. Their catcher cap is tight, with DK Metcalf as their only reliable target, and injuries to Calvin Austin have exposed their lack of depth. Myers, who has recorded 4 consecutive 800-yard rushing seasons, would fit perfectly alongside Metcalf and provide the security their offense desperately needs. Myers had already requested a trade earlier this year after contract negotiations failed. The Raiders held firm at the time, but with time running out, Spietek can't afford another mistake. If Las Vegas truly wants to rebuild, it needs to act now, before Myers leaves and takes his value with him. And if this deal happens, it could mark the first step in a complete roster overhaul, a move that signals the Raiders are officially entering comeback mode. While the board deals with negotiations, chaos ensues on the field. A special teams snafu, an injured All-Pro, and a desperate signing further disrupt Las Vegas's plans. Week 5 couldn't have gone worse for Las Vegas. Not only did the Raiders suffer another heartbreaking loss, they nearly lost their All-Pro punter, A.J. Cole, in the process. During a blocked punt, Cole severely sprained his ankle, forcing him to miss a crucial stretch of the game. Although he returned later to hold kicks for Daniel Carlson, he failed to make the point again, leaving the clock searching for answers. Fearing the worst, the Raiders acted quickly, signing Brad Robbins for practice. Robbins, a former Michigan standout, was drafted by the Cincinnati Bengals in 2023, but failed to secure a long-term starting spot. After a brief offseason stint with the Buffalo Bills, he's now in Las Vegas, ready to serve as an emergency backup if Cole can't play in Week 6. Cole's importance is undeniable. A 3-time Pro Bowler and 2-time All-Pro, he's been one of the most consistent punters in football. Losing him, even for a week, would jeopardize a season already struggling to maintain momentum, and special seasons haven't been this shaky in years. Coach Pete Carroll didn't hesitate to address the issue. "We need to address this," he said. "We've been good in special seasons before, but this year we're giving up too many big plays. That can't happen." Carroll suggested deploying defensive players into coverage units to restore discipline, emphasizing that consistency, not star power, will solve their problems. He confirmed that Cole suffered a sprained ankle and hopes to return to action by Friday. If he avoids injury, there's optimism for a quick return. Still, the season isn't taking any chances. Carroll knows they can't afford any more breakdowns in an area that once gave them a competitive advantage. The Raiders rank 7th in the NFL in punt effort, a statistic that tells the whole story. An offense that can't sustain drives, forcing the special teams to overwork. And speaking of offense, this brings us to the most controversial topic of all, the one that could define the rest of the season. The question every fan asks: how much longer can Pete Carroll keep Geno Smith before giving Kenny Pickett a chance? Pete Carroll preaches competition. It's the foundation of everything he's built over decades in football. The belief that no position, no player is untouchable. Since arriving in Las Vegas, that's been his mantra. Earn your spot, fight for every snap, prove you belong. But now, 5 games after a nightmare start, Raider Nation is asking something Carroll can't ignore much longer. Does that rule still apply to quarterback Geno Smith? Smith's numbers tell the story of a season gone wrong. 9 interceptions in 5 games, a completion percentage below 60%, and an offense that ranks among the bottom of the league in third down completions. Every campaign feels like a coin toss between promise promise and disaster. What was supposed to bring leadership and balance has instead become the symbol of inconsistency. Frustration is boiling in the locker room, on the sidelines, and especially among fans who expected the Carroll system to bring energy and accountability. Instead, the tempo seems dull, the play calling conservative, and the body language defeated. And as the chaos ensues, Kenny Pickett, a former first-round talent with sharp decision-making and underrated athleticism, watches from afar. Pickett is no longer a rookie. He's spent time learning two different systems, studying the difficulties and developing patience. The one thing he hasn't received yet? A real chance. After Sunday's loss to the Indianapolis Colts, Carroll faced the press with his characteristic calm. When asked directly why Pickett hasn't taken the field yet, he replied, "We need reps. We need rhythm. We need to see the system work." For Carroll, stability and reproducibility are key to the offense's return. But the problem is that reproduction only helps if the player is right to lead. The truth is, the Raiders are running out of time. Every week, Geno remains under center. The offense is further in disarray. Receivers like Devontae Adams and Jacoby Myers, if he isn't traded, are visibly frustrated. Drives aren't stalling for lack of talent, but for poor timing, poor reads, and a loss of confidence. Pickett represents something the Raiders desperately need: leadership with direction. He's not a silver bullet, but he is a reset button, a chance to evaluate what this season could look like with a quarterback who thrives on precision and discipline. Remember, Pickett's college career at Pitt was built on resilience. He was ignored, questioned, and labeled average until he turned those criticisms into fuel. He's accurate in the short game, smart under pressure, and strong enough to take hits without losing focus on the field. These traits, not arm strength or experience, are what define rebuilds. And make no mistake, that's exactly where Las Vegas is headed. With Jacoby Myers potentially on the trade market and other veterans being touted as next, it's clear the organization is leaning toward a long-term reset. Starting Pickett now wouldn't just be a matter of evaluating talent, it would be a matter of sending a message. This is a new era of accountability. Carroll's career has always been focused on development. In Seattle, he built a dynasty by trusting young players before the world believed in them. Russell Wilson, Richard Sherman, Cam Chancellor, all were risks that paid off. The question is, will he make the same leap again in Las Vegas? If the Raiders are truly going into protection mode, trading Jacoby Myers, revamping special teams, and possibly benching Geno Smith for Kenny Pickett, do you think this is the right time to tear everything down and start from scratch? Or should Las Vegas fight to save the season before it's too late? Leave your opinion here, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. I'll be back later to update you with the latest Raiders news.